I do want to note that we expect this to be a two-way conversation today. We are not only hearing from folks who have been living through this experience, but also intended to offer our own wisdom and expertise to help guide future efforts. I want to really thank Margie O'Driscoll and the Center for Innovation for inviting the leaders from Ukraine here to the Bay Area and also to SPUR today to help us all learn more about advanced means and methods of design and construction, preparation for peacetime reconstruction. And I really want to thank our guest speakers who went through the incredible effort of leaving an active war, coming to the Bay Area to hold this conversation. This was not an easy task. It took an incredible amount of dedication and effort. We're incredibly grateful to you for being here. And I also want to provide my personal appreciation because your presence and holding this conversation to me is emblematic of the ability to hold hope even in the darkest moments. And I personally am incredibly grateful to be a part of this experience today. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn over the mic to the inimitable Margie Driscoll for further introductions. Thank you all so much. Wow.
I'm going to start, I think this one is live. I'm going to start with a story of ambition and ideas. So the organization that I work for is a small organization called the Center for Innovation. Our focus is on innovation in the design and construction industry. So we started out being a Bay Area group of architects and builders and quickly grew over time to an international organization that included technologists, venture capitalists, and lots of people who wanted to think differently about how we build buildings. Ultimately, the ultimate goal for everyone in this room and everyone engaged with SPUR who cares about cities and our region and around the world is to create better environments for all of us to live and work and play and go to school. So that's ultimately what we all want to do. And there are lessons that can be learned here in San Francisco from each other, but also from people around the world. So we often have conversations with people who are doing amazing things in other places because we can all learn, right? So about a year and a half ago, Dean Reed, member of our board of directors, Dean, would you raise your hand? Dean said to me, you know, the war in Ukraine is raging and we're all feeling quite helpless here in the Bay Area about what we might do. I think it would be really interesting to have a conversation about how people in Ukraine at this moment, this is perhaps 2 months after the war began, are holding the trauma of being in war, but simultaneously rebuilding critical infrastructure. That's a lot. That's a lot. So our first webinar was literally with people in bomb shelters, telling us what it was like to do their work with a fierce dedication that quite honestly has never wavered with any of the conversations that I've had with anyone in this delegation or anyone in the country of Ukraine. So over time, we then we were fascinated with the conversation. And the end of the conversation, I said, you know, you're here in the middle of a war zone. What might we in the Bay Area so far away, how might we help you? And they said, you know, the thing that we would really like to learn is how to build and design and create better buildings now due to the reconstruction. How might we do that better? And we have been taught by the Russians. And let's be clear, we want no part of that anymore, but we don't know another way. Can you help us with that? And I thought, well, that's a really big ask. Thank you for being on this webinar. I'm going to go have a cup of coffee and think about that. By the time I got back to my desk, every single person who'd been on the webinar said, how are we going to do this? Everyone, hundreds of people, how can we do this? And I thought, I have no idea. And so over time, we began to get connected with a group called Dobrobot, and they're an organization which provides emergency repairs within the country. You could think of it a bit as the National Guard here. So if you could imagine a missile landing in Mill Valley and blowing off someone's home, their roof, you'd call the mayor of Mill Valley if you lived in Mill Valley to fix your roof. But the mayor says, I'm an elected official. I don't know how to fix your roof. The mayor calls Dobrobot, says, this is what's happened in our community. Can you send people to repair the roof? Is this building structurally sound for grandma to return to? They answer all those very basic questions. So it's a volunteer brigade which now numbers over 50,000 people in the country who provide these emergency repairs all over the country. And we thought, this is the right kind of partner. These are the people on the ground doing the work. Let's start talking with them about a big idea that CFI had. And the idea was, what if we created what we call a community of practice? And that community of practice would be builders, of course, but it would be architects, it would be city planners, it would be academics, and it would be the others that are all part of our ecosystem that all play a role in the built environment. What if we could identify leaders all throughout the country who might come together? They don't know each other at this moment in time, mind you. They get to know each other and hold the responsibility to go back to their sectors and actually help undergird the creation of a movement internally to Ukraine to rebuild the country according to their desires, not our telling them what to do, but rather saying, here's our offering. These are the things which are happening, which we think could be of interest to you. You may take what you want. You may take what you want and go home and make it 10 times better. So that was where we started. So in many conversations with the inimitable Andrei Lochnikov, who I will introduce you to more fully. So in many conversations, and one morning he said to me, we did 7 a.m. mornings here, was the end of his day there. He said, Margie, I have an idea. And I now know that I should always say, I gotta go. But what he said was, we have an idea. We think that you should go to Kyiv. The war's raging. My son is in the California National Guard. I had no desire to go and put anyone at risk. The Ukrainian armed forces have an important battle to run. I didn't want to distract from that kind of focus. And so we said to Andrei, I got to talk to my family about this. And I got to talk to some other people about it. And we then became deeply engaged with the United States State Department, the Ukrainian consulate. We're very honored to have the Consul General here with us today. Would you like to stand and be recognized here? And we started building a coalition around this idea of creating a community of practice of bringing leaders here. And first step, according to Andrei, was for me and other leaders from CFI to go to Kyiv. So we went to Kyiv. We spent 5 days there. We ate unbelievably well. Okay, that's the first thing I have to say to all the San Franciscans. We also met many people on the trip, although not everyone is able to be with us. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we together started forming this idea of a conference, which would happen while we were there in Kyiv. Over 500 people came to the conference and over 2,000 people around the country listened in. And so unlike the conversations which often happen about rebuilding, which are very important, don't get me wrong, government to government, aid agency to aid agency, this was some presentations by government officials because this was supported by the government, but it was about real people, real builders, real architects. Here are the obstacles to our rebuilding effort. And it was amazing. It was just amazing to be in this room full of people, watching the messiness of democracy in action, of people disagreeing with each other, all of the things that we enjoy here. So we left that conference, and at that conference, we announced publicly, we said, we're going to invite 10 Ukrainians here. We invite you to apply. We invite you to come and join us on this journey. And so we went through a very rigorous selection process, and you have 10 Ukrainians with us today. Would all the members of the delegation please stand? All of you, yeah, stand. I will just add, because it continues to astound me, some of these people traveled for 3 days to get here. It took a 40-hour train ride from Kharkiv, which is right on the Russian border, to get to Warsaw to mount an 18-hour air flight. There's no direct flights between San Francisco and Warsaw. They were exhausted when they came here, but they were ready to work the next morning at 8 o'clock. Show us what you have. Pasita, did you want me to pause here or continue? Okay, these individuals are all here, and what we are hoping for is the chance for you to meet them. I'm going to ask them a couple of questions, but we really want to hear from you about the questions that you've had. I would just say from my personal perspective, it's been an honor and a privilege to get to know these people. Their resilience, their strength, their fortitude has never wavered. not for one moment, and how they have held the responsibility of daily life, of worrying about a husband in the military, sons who are of an age to join the military, running an architectural practice or doing their daily lives, as well as holding a possible vision for rebuilding their country, is amazing to me. I can't imagine holding one of those and doing a good job, but holding all of those things at the same time is really, if anything, proof of the resilience and the dedication of the Ukrainian people to win this war and rebuild their country in a new way. So it's been my real honor to have this opportunity to share San Francisco's best with this group of people. Okay, am I getting the 1 minute warning over here? I'm just trying to, yes. Okay, I'm getting a 1 minute warning. There's one other thing that I want to say about the Center for Innovation. We don't think we have all the answers. And what we tried to do was talk with many of you in this room and others about the best ideas that we could actually show Ukrainians. So they've been on a very rigorous study tour. I've hardly let them sleep, to see some of the best ideas that we think might work for the people of Ukraine. So they've been very busy. They have many ideas. And one of the things that I'm going to be asking them later is what they've seen and what they think might be interesting. Also, I'm going to be asking them what their impressions are of San Francisco. For all of you in the audience, you know, we're in a bit of a doom loop about this city as a failed city and nothing's going right here. I will have to tell you that in planning this study trip, every single person I asked for help in any way to show us something, talk to us, said yes. And what more can we offer to these people? How can I personally extend my genius, my company, my wisdom to this group of people? And we're honored that you ask. So if I've ever had a moment, and I will tell you honestly, I've been part of that doom loop. We all have. I have seen a San Francisco that is as resilient as we have always been as a people. So I just want to call that out right now. Okay. The Ukrainian delegation now has to step outside for a moment. So all of the Ukrainian delegation, Consul General, maybe you can lead people outside for just a moment. Yeah. So yes, all of you need to step outside. There's someone who wants to meet you. Okay. Sorry. Tom's an old boss of mine, so he's telling me I need to just keep on dancing in front of you. So you know, we're. I wish the speaker could hear this. You know, we are also proud of our speaker. I will just tell you that she and her staff have gone above and beyond to get these people here. It is not easy to leave Ukraine, and she and the United States State Department worked miracles to get this group here in one piece, because technically no one's allowed to leave the country. But we said, we have to show people. We can't just talk to people. We have to actually show people. So it was an enormous effort for them to all get here. So when we thought about the issues that we wanted to show people, let me just tell you that we started out with a list of, Dean, remind me, probably 90 different things that we wanted to show those people. We knew we only had 10 days, so we had to sort of whittle through our list and really try and listen carefully, observing while we were in Kyiv of how buildings are built there, and also where there was openness to change and new ideas. So we made a bunch of gambles on what we thought was going to be interesting for them. And so, so here are the things that we did with them. AECOM, and I think Carl is here. Yeah, Carl's here. Sorry, I can't see anyone. Carl is one of the leaders at AECOM, and I think there might be some other people from the AECOM staff, is serving as what is called, I believe, a trusted advisor role with the Ukrainian national government on issues of infrastructure. So they are working at a very high level. So some of his team came and met and sort of talked about an overall framework for how you even approach the idea of rebuilding. So they laid an amazing groundwork for what we were going to see through the next couple of days. Then we went to the Presidio, and you know, of course, it's drop dead beautiful. They said, what they said to me was, this is a fairy tale. And I said, it is a fairy tale. I mean, we live a lot of fairy tales in the city. But what was amazing about that is that the staff of the Presidio came in all day Sunday, not only walked around, but they talked about the problems and they talked about the before of the Presidio. So for those of you who were in San Francisco 25 years ago, know Presidio was walled off from the city. We weren't allowed access to it. There's a wall against the where Chrissy Field was. Chrissy Field did not exist. All of those things, which now in our memory are what are beloved, was not the way it was. And I kept saying to them, this is 25 years. This is what can happen in 25 years. So we talked a lot about construction techniques, and we also talked about creating a procurement process, which is a challenge to deal with the very real corruption which is happening in Ukraine right now. I'm just going to be straight about that. How do you create processes that can help stem the tide of corruption? We don't think we have it perfectly, but I think that's some good ideas to share with them. And they were fascinated. And this will come as a surprise to all of you. It certainly did to me, that you don't have to pay a tax on public property. So the University of Irpin, for example, pays taxes to the national government, even though they're a university. So they don't have this idea of the tax incentives that we might have for NGOs. On a very simple level, that's a big line item in the university's budget, right? So anyway, they're sort of saying, oh, there's this whole other sector that we need to understand. From there, we had conversations with, we went to Stanford for a day. We went to the Center for Integrated Facilities Engineering. So those of you who are really wonky in the construction world know that that is the international place for advancement in design and construction, primarily construction facilities. And so we talked a lot about creating better processes, how people might work together. And then we met Ambassador McFall, former ambassador to Russia from the United States and member of the Obama administration, who tells it straight. And it was a great conversation about corruption and how you respond to that. And, why is aid not happening for the Ukrainian people right now? And so that was pretty amazing. We also spent time with other experts, namely David Wessel and the team at ARG. David, would you stand up for just a second? David Wessel, many of you all probably know David. His firm has served as our headquarters for the whole trip. David's office is on Pier 9 on the water. So the idea of having an office floating on the water is pretty amazing. And we spent a lot of time talking about culture and heritage and bringing in experts from UC Berkeley and other places about how you might think about preserving the stories of culture and history, because that was one of the things that we really learned, is that from the Ukrainian perspective, and I don't want to take the words out of their mouths, but this is a culture war, and it's so much deeper of a culture war than the way that we throw around that word here. It is about they believe that the Russians want to make them Russians, and they say we are Ukrainians. There's a really big distinction. This takes the term culture war to an entirely different level in my mind. So I think that's something that is very real for the people there. I have a little deck which I'll run about just the extent of the damage so people can really understand the true context for the company, but I'll do that in a moment. Yesterday, we decided, so let me tell you, they've all learned about Clipper cards. So they have pretty much used their Clipper card everywhere they've gone. And they're like, wait, what? I said, here's a Clipper card. We've loaded it with money, and we didn't want to load it on everybody's phones. But anyway, so they've been on public transit and they're totally having a great time. So we took them by ferry up to Mare Island to see Factory OS. Some of you in the industry will know about that. It's about industrialized construction, about these ideas of building modules, sort of linking them together in the Legos we all played with on site and building up to 5 or 6 stories. I have to tell you, I've been talking about this idea, but until people could actually see it, they blew their minds about how this can do this. Now, for those of you who are really wonky in the industry, you'll know that this is a common way to build in Sweden and much of Scandinavia. And we somehow forgot how to do it here for about 40 years. And so now we've relearned that here in the Bay Area, and it's helping solve our affordable housing crisis in really powerful ways. The city of San Francisco is really trying to use that work. And so anyway, for them, it was a whole idea of how quickly you might be able to build. The other thing that I continue to marvel about Factory OS, and for those of you who've seen how it is, in the hours that we spent there yesterday, I never saw a worker bend over or lift anything beyond their physical weight. If you've ever been on a construction site, you know, we ruin people's bodies by the time they're 45 or 50 and they can't keep working. At Factory OS, they now are taking people who thought they had to retire because they never have to bend over. Everything is elevated, lifted, moved, and thought about in a very organized manner. So there's none of that bending over, lifting, that is what ruins people's bodies. So for them, that was like, wow, we could extend the lifetime. We could also change the construction industry. So one of the critical problems in Ukraine is the number of people who've had to leave the country. About a quarter of the population has either been displaced in Ukraine or outside, here to the United States, here to Europe. Okay, now our star power comes back. Great. So the thing that we have been planning all morning is that Speaker Pelosi is extremely revered in Ukraine because she came in the middle of the war, and they found that to be incredibly courageous, as well as her leadership in the United States Congress on this issue. So I would say probably every call I had with Andre, he said, so do we get to meet the speaker? She's a very busy lady. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So they didn't know until literally they walked out there that she was going to be here to meet them. So
I got a little emotional as we walked in here. Ann Halstead Hall. She was a champion. She was a champion for the goals of SPUR and the goals that we share today for building back better with imagination and with a vision. Thank you to Alicia Jean-Baptiste, head of SPUR, for your hospitality and your leadership. Thank you, Margie O'Driscoll, Center for Innovation, for what you are doing in such an imaginative way to go forward. I join all of you here in welcoming the delegation. We had our individual photos, so I could hear some of what their enthusiasm is for this meeting is. I had read about the biographies when I had the honor of writing to all of you to say this is a wonderful delegation worthy of our time. And again, taking steps forward, hearing their different parts of the country and the challenges their families are facing, all of them fighting for democracy, Ukraine, but we all benefit for their fight for democracy throughout the world. So we thank them for that. Thank you for your courage. We have them, as we use our phrase in my build back better. So as they build back, where we want to have the benefit of everyone's thinking on the subject. And what I heard from them was how some ideas from architects, from the arts. The arts, I think, are going to be a very unifying thing. They always are in our community and other places where people can come together with shared values, whether it's in a museum or a performance or whatever it is, and the battlefield, and some of them right in their homes in Ukraine. I had the privilege of being first high-level official to visit, well, really American, to visit Ukraine nearly 2 years ago, 22 months ago, to visit with President Zelensky. To my surprise, he greeted us on the street. We thought we were going to be, but the courage that he had. I had the privilege of welcoming him to the United States Congress right before Christmas of not last year, but the year before, as you may see. And when he came, the reception he received in a bipartisan way, House and Senate, was quite remarkable. And the speech he gave was so inspiring, and I'll just tell you this, for me personally, my father was in Congress when Winston Churchill came the day after Christmas to ask for help for World War II, ask the United States Congress for help for World War II. So to have President Zelensky there the week before Christmas, but the same time frame, asking for help from the United States, it was a very emotional thing. But the members saw, most of them, that, well, none of them had their father in Congress then, but all of them knew the commonality, the history of it all, the weight of it all, of Zelensky coming. He presented me with a flag for the Congress of the battlefield that he had just come from the day before. We presented him a flag flown over the Capitol in honor of his visit. So far, unfortunately, we've had a delay in the funding, but we will get the funding because we must get the funding, and we can't let any obstacles stand in our way. I'm very proud of our president in all of this. Again, I'll talk personally. When I was a girl in school, I went to President Kennedy's inauguration. You weren't born yet. Maybe your parents weren't even born yet. You've read about it in the history books, but it was my youth. And in that speech, everybody knows what he said. He said, "To the citizens of America, ask not what America can do for you, but what you can do for your country." You all know that, right? The very next sentence, which stuck with me because I was a student studying all this in school, he said, "To the citizens of the world, ask not what America can do for you, but what we can do working together for the freedom of mankind." And that's what he did when this challenge of Ukraine, working together with NATO and other countries, not just NATO, but other countries, but principally NATO and the G7, to help Ukraine for the freedom of mankind. Not coming in and saying, "America has this, this is what we're going to do." That's not what President Kennedy said. He said, what we can do working together, no condescension, but collaboration. And I said to the president, you've had a Kennedy-esque moment in your collaboration, your respect for what the other countries think, especially, of course, starting with Ukraine, as how we can be most helpful. So I go back tomorrow to Washington. Monday, we've been out this week, but Monday we'll continue that fight. But really, to be true to who we are as fighting for democracy, for the freedom of mankind, working together, we must get that money. We will get that money. I thank you all for taking your time to be part of this discussion with our distinguished, brave, courageous, visionary leaders for Ukraine now and for the future. Thank you for the honor to say a few words to all of you today. And thank you again, Alicia Jean-Baptiste. Thank you, Margie, for your leadership. Thank you all for your presence. Thank you so much.
That was a really tough, that's going to be a really tough act to follow. So thank you all for being patient. This, I think, means a lot to the delegation. And so it wasn't what they expected coming here. They didn't know about this. So I just want to tell you, this is not what we all planned together for you to be talking about and how today was going to go. So we were kind of making it up as we go because this is such a special moment for our Ukrainian guests. We have 4 sort of leaders here from Ukraine who I'd like to just talk a little bit about who they are. Now we have 10 people in the delegation, as you know, and I may ask them all of questions. I told them that we were going to just see how it all works together today, but I'm going to ask them to each introduce them. I will briefly introduce them and then ask them a question because what we want to make sure we have plenty of time to do is have dialogue with all of you. So the first person I'm going to introduce you to is Anna Curie. Anna is an architect. She has her own practice and she serves as what we would consider to be the vice chair of the Union of Architects in Ukraine. And so I'd like Anna to just say a few words about some of the challenges in her life and with architects in Ukraine, and how you're thinking about rebuilding. So just very quick remarks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Margie, for this honor surprise we had. Thank you for coming. So, to speak about challenges nowadays in architecture is quite huge topic. Of course, we have our country in ruin now, okay, part of our country, and the war is still continue. But we need to rebuild every day, and we at the same time need to think about the best future. So honestly, we had many architectural and urban planning problems and challenges before the war. You know, we have quite a post-Soviet urban planning system and legislation system, so we need to improve, and we need to maybe build back better before our urban planning system and architecture system and legislation system in urban planning sphere. And of course, we need to improve our knowledges, and we should be equal to high level challenges we have. So, and we want to see this war as an opportunity how to recreate our country much more beautiful in architectural, of course, way, in urban planning sphere, how to recreate our country, make it more beautiful for our people, for our citizens, and how to take better our refugees. This is very big challenges, and I think architecture can be part of solving this problem. So we have many challenges, but I think we have a power and strong will to got it. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce you to Andrei Lachnov. He's been my partner in planning all this. I discovered there's a encrypted app called Telegram, which has been our sort of a new thing for me, but that is the lives of Ukrainians today, is the way that they think about how they communicate. Andrei works for Hilti Ukraine and has been our leader, and he's also a leader in an organization called Dobrobot, and I spoke about it briefly when you were out of the room, but maybe you could talk just briefly about what Dobrobot is and what you do.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like also to express huge gratitude for everyone who came here. Thank you for your support. Thank you, CFI. Margie, thank you for that surprise. I mean, we kind of still trying to balance the emotions. And this is kind of emotions that we're having constantly here since the day we arrived. The level of support we feel from the people, not only from congressman or speaker former, but also from people in California. Thank you for that. The Dobrobot is a volunteer movement that the aim is fast recovery. So we deal with the basic restorations of buildings that were destroyed, partially destroyed by the war. We operate in 7 different regions. We have about 50,000 volunteers. And the main aim is fast recovery. It's aimed not only to cover the roofs and windows within the different buildings, not only civil, but also educational and infrastructure as well. But the aim is also to keep people, keep population, keep citizens in Ukraine. The problem of refugees is huge in Ukraine, and we have millions of internally, and what is most important, externally displaced people. So this is also a quick response that the volunteer movement can do in order to secure and save the lack of people and population we are unfortunately currently face. In Dobrobad, I'm responsible for international cooperation in construction industry. And I'm really happy that we have implemented several steps already, and we see great results literally right now. Should I answer the same question as Anna or no? No? Okay. Okay.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Volodymyr Krudenko, Member of Parliament. Volodymyr, maybe you could introduce yourself and talk about the issues you worked on before the war and the issues you are working on now.
Okay, thank you, Margie. Thank you for such unexpected surprise. We very appreciate it, and yeah, I think it's a big support for us and a big signal for all world that we have such support from American people, from Congress and etc. I want to say big thanks to SPUR that host us and give us possibility to talk with you. I want to say thanks to people who come here and who stay with Ukraine and who have really big heart and understand who is evil in such struggle. That's like shortly. I don't know how much time I have, but my name is Volodymyr Krudenko. I'm a member of parliament, deputy chairman on Committee of Transport and Infrastructure. Before the war started, we, together with our president Zelensky, planned a lot of reforms in sphere of infrastructure and transport. We plan to create new roads. We plan to create new subways, new houses, new buildings, new hospitals, kindergartens, etc. When war came to our houses, we like God Shiva. From one hand, we must struggle with Russians and kick them out from our territory, protect our people. By second hand, we need to get together all resources for to give all opportunity to our soldier, to give ammunition, to find guns and weapons which help us to stay and to protect our people. Also, we need to do a fast recovery because every day a lot of houses are destroyed by Russians, and it's terrible to see people without house, without resources, without money, out of the street. And yeah, it's a lot of challenges, but we have success. We are strong and we ready to manage everything. Manage with the support of American people, with EU people, with all people who understand that Ukraine not start this war. Ukraine just protect their territory, protect our people from Russians. Thank you very much for you. And Putin, yeah, you are true. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce you to Andrei Boldov. He's the gentleman at the end here. Andrei and the rector of European University. Would you stand, please? He's the president of this university in a city called Irpin. Andrei, I'd like you to run the slideshow. So let me just talk for a moment, a bit about to introduce. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we went to Kyiv, we went under armored guard to a small town only about 5 miles outside of Kyiv. For those of you who are watching closely during the beginnings of the war, the Russian offense came from Belarus, and it came down, and the ultimate objective was the capital of Kyiv, which is almost in the middle of the country. And so when they got to the city of Irpin, again, about less than 5 miles away, the mayor of Irpin ordered the bridge to be blown up to stop the assault on Kiev, the potential assault. So if you might remember that long convoy that was running, they were stopped at this bridge because it couldn't cross. And in retribution for that, they turned around and destroyed that city. So we met the mayor of Irpin, who most unfortunately can't be here. If you'd like to hear his story, and many of the stories here, they're on our website called the Center for Innovation.org. You can go and hear these individual stories of people, but Mayor Merkushin was an amazing person, and he was unable to come at the last minute. He broke his leg, and he said, well, I'm coming anyways. And I said, my friend, I cannot bring you to a construction site in January in the rain in San Francisco with a broken leg. I will be way too worried the whole time. So that's the only reason that he's not here. But we promised to tell his story. That was part of my promise to him. Because we are lucky enough to have two people from the University of Irpin who are here, Andriy is going to lead this. And then, of course, the president, the rector will answer any questions. Go ahead.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Andriy Boldov, and together with Dmitro Serebryansky, we represent the State Tax University, Irpin, Ukraine. Our university is the only higher education institution in Ukraine that is subordinate to the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine and prepares specialists for this sector. The university has a long history. In December 2021, it celebrated its 100th anniversary. Since its foundation, the university has trained over 80,000 professionals who have become parts of Ukrainian intellectual, political, and business elite. The university is a jewel of Irpin and significantly influences the life of the city because the university campus harmoniously intertwines with its architecture, and the students' thus sets the pace of the useful, lovely, and creative atmosphere of a life. Our graduates hold a leading position in the public finance system of Ukraine. Among them is the Minister of Finance of Ukraine, the Chairman of the Board of Direction of the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, Sergei Marchenko. In February 2022, our city, located 7 kilometers from Kyiv, became the defensive line of the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv. For this reason, it now bears the honorary title, the Hero City Irpin. Since the occupation in the early March 2022, the university has become one of the largest humanitarian hubs for residents of the Irpin community. The volunteers brought food and clothes, which the university distributed to the victims of the war. About 1,000 people were hiding in our civil defense shelters. The military actions devastated the city. Bombs and missiles destroyed homes, kindergartens, schools, and much more. The university also suffered. The consequences of the bombing and missile strikes were fires in the buildings, collapses, and the complete destruction of the main building. Unfortunately, some buildings are beyond repair. This has caused not only immense material damage, but also emotional distress. And now it's hard to look at the aftermath of the war. However, at the same time, this generates a belief that everything will be rebuilt. Despite the active phase of war, the infrastructure necessary for the educational process was restored. And on September 1st, 2023, on-site learning was partially resumed. The university continues to provide educational service for higher education students across 17 specialties and more than 50 educational programs. After all, we are convinced that high-quality education, robust national science, and a high level of knowledge among Ukrainian youth are necessary for building a strong, modern European country. We have a strong desire not only to bring the university back to life as before the war, but to make it even better. And we are currently realizing the desire through studying and creating projects for reconstructions and revival. For our university, the assistance of American and European universities in training our students and improving the qualification of our teachers is crucial. The state tax and customs service will be reformed after the war and will need professional, honest, and fair employers. Students exchange, internships, and even just visit our students to American universities will contribute to solving this task. We believe that very soon the university will return to full operation and continue to provide specialists for the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine, the State Tax Service, and others. Thank you for your opportunity to be here. Thank you for your attention.
Andre, you did great. He's been very nervous about that. And you did just great. You should be very proud. I'm going to ask one question of each of the panelists, and I'm going to open it all up to all of you. So my one question to you is, you've been in San Francisco for exactly 1 week now. I have run you ragged. You've seen many, many things. What did you see in San Francisco? What did you think about this city? What did you see that maybe you think might be helpful as you think about rebuilding your nation?
This 1 week was full of emotion, full of information. We are overwhelmed of emotion, information, many visitors and events. My biggest maybe reflection that in San Francisco, your project companies, development companies, and project manager are very process-oriented people and very technology and process-oriented, maybe process of making decision, process of development project, process of construction. And it is very important for us because, you know, Ukrainians at all like results oriented. We start to run and after think. I'm sorry for this example. And we need, I think, to implement these process-oriented ideas in rebuilding Ukraine. As David said, think slow, act fast. And we need to think slow. Maybe it's hard for Ukrainians, especially at this time nowadays, because Dobrobad can move and build fast, and they need to build fast, and we need to build. For example, my work nowadays is completely consist of projecting bomb shelters for our kindergartens and schools and infrastructure. So that's my work from morning to evening, how to create these bomb shelters for our children and people as an architect. I absolutely inspired your process-oriented approach, and I think we need to use it in our life. And the second one is in our professional life. The second one is technology, high level of technology and high level of collaboration. As we heard in Stanford, you should use the best tools. That was advice of professor. And I see in American company that you can use these best tools. You can create these best tools. And very important that you can collaborate between different stage of projects and between different companies. Architectural company use the same tools, high technology, after project manager, after construction, and the construction plot use the same tools. And I think that American people are the champions in collaboration. And this inspired me very much. I want to bring it to Ukraine, into our company, and to share this idea in Ukraine. We can collaborate, but we we are champions how to fight in which is each other too. This is kind of democracy in Ukraine. But I want to bring back to Ukraine this your high level of collaboration. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. It's been really inspiring, really. And every event throughout our tight schedule, happily tight schedule was really inspiring. We had an internal reflection. We set up a meeting between of us. We said, and I have a bunch of reflection literally we would like to take, and we even started to discuss how and in what way we should implement it. So I pretty much agree what Anna said, and build back better, somehow transforming in our way here throughout your help to build forward. We need to think about future. We need to put our people, our human inside of this people-centric strategy and build forward, taking into the account all new technologies, all the innovation, but also the people-centric strategy, because sometimes we definitely do not need to rebuild. Just rebuild is not enough. We need to build for people, and sometimes it takes much, much more. I have a lot to say actually here, but as I understood, we're pretty okay.
In a very short.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm first time in America, in the United States, in California, in San Francisco, and this week really was very awesome. You say awesome. And I was surprised by two things. First, it's very open people who ready to share their skills, their knowledge, their technology, everything you can take from you and to provide in Ukraine. And it's a big big things and it's a big pleasure to me to see such people. Of course, second thing, it's technology. You do by technology more bigger amount of work than we do by our hands. We use a lot of people. Instead of this, you use, for example, robots, and it's differences between us for now. But of course, if we can take your technology, if we can get from you support in such providing new technology in Ukraine, we can reach a lot, because we have very clever, very brave, very I don't know how it's when we work a lot, how to say it in English, but we're ready to work to change our country, to build a new country for our people, and to be and stand with all European countries and with the United States. We are like one family, and we should stay together. Thank you.
Thank you, Volodymyr. Andrei?
As for me, I am not a builder. I am not an architect, but everything what I saw in this trip is unbelievable. I like how to education harmoniously combined with the city, and we want to do the same in our university.
Take that doom loop. Just saying. I'm just saying. Now we'd really like to hear from all of you. If anyone has any questions they'd like to make. Hi. Oh, thank you.
This question might be a little bit early, because right now the war's still on and there's a lot of rebuilding that has to go on. But I want to ask about the issue of architectural preservation, especially historical monuments and historical buildings. Because after World War II, different countries and different cities took different approaches. Warsaw was rebuilt in a certain way historically, but German cities were rebuilt in a modern way. London was rebuilt in other ways. Dresden was rebuilt one way. Now it's being rebuilt in other ways. So I know this is an early stage and there's a lot to be done before the war ends, but has there been a discussion about what happens next with architectural preservation and facades and all of that?
Do you want to take that question, Andre? But here's what I also want to tell you is it was very difficult for, it was very difficult for me to work with the SPUR staff to figure out who would speak at each panel. So let me just say, we are enormously lucky to have as a member of the delegation, someone who heads the UNESCO desk in Kyiv. And that's Darina Nezelka. Darina, would you just stand? She said to me, I am so tired of talking, that I have a day off. So anyway, that's the only reason Darina's not here. So anyway, if you have specific questions, Darina's your person. I'm gonna pass this to Andre to just quickly answer. Oh, right.
Yeah, thank you for this great question, because it's very important to understand that this war is not just for the territories or for people. It is also for our identity, for the cultural identity, and the cultural identity struggles a lot. We have a lot of distractions there. That is why preparing this cooperation with the CFI, with once again, I will say it every time. Thank you, CFI. Preparing this cooperation, even the first step, inviting and hosting CFI, preparing event in Kyiv. David Wessel, who is here, who is an architect and a specialist in history preservation from the architectural side, provided a specific presentation dedicated in our event that Margie was referring to. So from the very beginning, even half a year ago, even longer, we planned that this topic should be covered. It's very important, and we need to think about it from the very beginning. And speaking about this trip in our group, specifically planning it with Margie and CFI, we selected and dedicated some time to speak about that, to find solutions about that. And we have a lot of details how we can proceed with this topic. I don't know if Anna can add to this from the architectural side something.
Yeah, I maybe add from the architectural side. As far as I understood, you are an architect. No? Okay. We, in our architectural chamber, we started the project case study and lessons learned how to rebuild in cities was after World War I, Second World War, and after different disasters. So, it can be two kinds of approach as we investigate. From the one hand, approach in Warsaw, from the other hand, approach to rebuilding as in Rotterdam, for example. You know, in Warsaw, they have architect visionary Jan Zachwatowicz, who said the slogan, "The nation and their monuments are one." So they try to rebuild not only walls, they try to rebuild their identity. And in the Rotterdam, we had absolutely different approach when they tried to create absolutely modern city, and even old building after war was finished, they tried to demolish to open the view to the river and so on. This is a different approach. And we studied all of them and other 10 cities. As for Ukrainian and architectural side, it's very important for us to keep the approach high to preserve our identity, because not only this war, that nowadays Russia tried to destroy our culture, our identity, and it began not from the 24th of February. It began at Soviet time, and all this period of Soviet time, Russia tried to kill our identity, and not only national identity, because you know Ukraine is a big country and we have many romadas and many territories where you can see the local identity, very interesting local identity. Nova Kakhovka Dam, you had beautiful frescoes and decoration in the walls, at the walls made by Dovzhenko. And I can give you many examples about local identity. So from other side, our architectural community, we provide the idea that we should preserve and recreate and re-study it and save our local identity and national identity. Yes, to rebuild in modern way, but with gentle preservation our architecture and heritage.
I'd like to know how you rebuilt the university so quickly. Those pictures were amazing. I know it requires access to money, construction materials, a construction management system, all in the midst of the war and Irpin being destroyed. So maybe, anyway, if you could quickly identify the keys that were able to rebuild so quickly.
Я знаю.
I will speak for Andre. Andre, or do you want to go ahead? What is
I kind of see
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
signs that
okay?
okay. Just for the translation reasons, I will try to answer this question. And we kind of in touch with the university as well. So you saw just a part. Partially it was restored. University saved the money, even out of the salaries. They saved the money to restore the campuses. So it is crucial not only for university but also for Irpin city to build back, to bring people back. The same applies to the students. It was crucial, and they launched the offline education during this year. So if I'm not mistaken, 3 directions launched within the offline studies. However, not everything is restored. Far from the end. I say, який відсоток руйнування у вас зараз по університету? А зараз? So at the very beginning, about 70% of university capacities was destroyed. And now they have rebuilt about 30% only. So it's still a huge part that needs a lot. And from my point of view, personal, I'm in the construction industry, construction background, more than 15 years in this industry. They need a complete rebuild. And this is a partially, or maybe the main reason why they are here. We need to rethink and redo. And we get a lot of emotions and impressions being in the Stanford. So yeah, it's not over.
Okay, we have time for one quick question. Gentleman right here. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to follow on, Anna, you kind of were touching on this. I see that your recovery really is going to have to be in 2 phases. You're coming here and we're talking about technology, prefab and bringing that in. But it would seem to me as an outsider, what you've suffered, your first task is really healing and rebuilding communities. It's rebuilding the housing, rebuilding the schools, rebuilding the community centers, the clinics, rebuilding a sense of community. And I think in counterpoint to the sort of Soviet planning, I think you need to look at decentralization, because your most valuable resource ultimately are the Ukrainian people, who are both resilient, resourceful, and talented. And if you look back on the map behind you on the wall, 80% of that construction is constructed using 5 by 10 centimeter pieces of wood. And a piece of wood and a hammer and a nail and a saw is within the technical ability of the majority of people, and allowing your communities, given the size of your country, from Kharkiv to Lviv to Odessa to Kherson, is so big. We seldom realize how big a country it is different. I think decentralization in phase 1, going simple. Phase 2, where the vision comes in, relies upon phase one.
I think that was actually a great comment that you made. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
Dmitry.
Yeah, please, Mitro. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Here, Mitro. Yeah. Mitro is the executive director, the CEO of Dobrobat.
I'm Dmitro Ivanov. Now I'm CEO of Dobrobat, but my previous job position, I was deputy governor of Chernigiv region. It's one of the region in which Dobrobat works. It's one of the 7 regions in which we works. And you mentioned about decentralization. In our country, we have 1,300 communities, and decentralization help our country to survive. It's for sure. Because I were in siege 38 days in Chernigiv, and I was responsible for defense. In ordinary life, I was responsible for economy, ecology, but in this that time, I was responsible for defense. And our country, decentralization and local authority help our country to survive. It's for sure, and we have to recover with them. Where Dobrobat now going to realize one real good project for our country, and we talk with Center of Innovation with our partners in Embassy of USA about the Regional Recovery Council. Dobrobat know how to unite all people in our country, all spheres, doctors, teachers. We have volunteers from 27 countries, also from United States. And we want on this Regional Recovery Council in 7 regions, want to unite all branches of government, local authorities, central government, local society, civil society, because in future 10 years, our country need more 1.5 million professional builders, but before the war it was 300,000. And without such project as Dobrobat, which unite every spheres, and we want to unite on regional recovery councils, all branches of government, we couldn't solve the problem, and we couldn't recover because without such initiative. Many thanks.
So you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
I want to just take 1 second and ask you to stand up for just a moment, Rostislav. So Rostislav Smirnov, I guess about 18 months ago, had this idea about how are we going to repair our country in the midst of war when so many people are on the front line. So Rostislav and a partner who's a member of the military said, why don't we create a volunteer corps within our country? So within 18 months, they had 50,000 active volunteers. And so Mitro here is like leading the charge with all of those people, coordinating all of those efforts, which include logistics and everything else. And so Rostislav is really doing his part in his own way. And it's the way that I have learned how so many people have stepped forward and with new and amazing ideas to transform their country. And they've been called to do that in different ways. Some people by taking arms, and other people by taking care of those who are still at home. So thank you for all of that. I would also be in a lot of trouble if I didn't introduce you to someone very special, who's Konstantin Domenov. Will you raise your hand, Konstantin? Konstantin, he lives in the city of Kharkiv, which is on the border. So he's been here. So after they spend 10 hours with me seeing the best we have to offer, all these people go back and work back in their rooms because of the time difference. And in the middle of our trip a couple of days ago, he was responding to the death of 18 people in his town due to Russian shelling. So if you can imagine, you know, we think about, I'm going to bring them on a cable car. I'm going to take people to dinner at Chinatown. And this is the trauma that he's dealing with after we show him the best that San Francisco has to offer. And so I want to say I am so inspired by how you manage all of this. So anyway, I can't help but run. So we're getting to the end of our time together. And let me tell you, when I was thinking about an outcome for these people who I've all gotten to know, one of it was just to get to know each other. I think they have amazing stories to tell, but also show them things that we have here, but also to humanize this idea of the way that we encounter things like tragedies, which is so far away, and we see it in our media feeds. Like, how is that me I'm just going to swipe to something else because our minds cannot hold the horror and trauma of war. But when you come and meet people, then it's something entirely different. One of my hopes is that people in this audience, because I know I'm sitting with some of the finest architects and builders in San Francisco, will be moved enough to reach out to some of these people and say, you know, I'm interested in talking with you a little bit more. What is one thing that I can do to help you? We as individuals can't fight that war, but by coming together, we can help and offer the best of knowledge we have for courageous people who are going to sometimes say to us, no, we think that's a bad idea. But at least in that offering, we will have shown, I think, the true spirit of San Francisco. So I'm going to end the program on that note. I know you have so many questions, and I'm so sorry because this was not how I thought our time together would all be today. Thank you to Alicia and her staff for really pivoting with an unexpected, really important gesture by the speaker joining us today, because it means so much to these people here. So I really invite you. We're going to stay for a while. We have folks from NASA who've come to make a presentation, and I told them that would start in about 20 minutes. And I'm just going to ask your forgiveness. We'll get to that because I feel like this moment. Okay, you're good. Okay, I feel like this moment of opportunity for you to talk to people here. Please do. So I'd like first the Ukrainians to all stand so they can identify themselves. Pavel.
Okay.
If it's okay for you, can we close now? Did you want to say another word? We didn't really talk. Okay, perfect, perfect, thank you. So really, we invite you to meet and talk with these people more deeply with your genius.
Thank you very much.